Hey everyone, I wanted to make this tutorial video for you in regards to rounding. This is typically a skill that most third graders struggle with, all third graders struggle at one point with. So I wanted to put out a tutorial up front so that if you are seeing some struggles with this, that you are able to help them the way that we teach it at Patty and in third grade. Before I begin, I just also want to say that third grade is all about the strategies on how to get to a specific answer. So you are going to see us teach rounding a little bit different than probably you were taught. You're also going to see that with addition, adding and subtracting numbers, and you're also going to see it, which is the most popular, with multiplication. Quick little story, I've had multiple parents every year ask, why are we teaching multiplication this way? Again, third grade, it's all about the strategies. So we give them the strategies, and then once they get to fourth and fifth, they pick whatever strategy they're most comfortable with. So in this strategy, for rounding, we are going to be using the number line strategy. It's exactly how it sounds. We're using a number line to help us round. So in this little tutorial, we're going to do 3 examples. The first example is going to be a 2-digit number rounded to the nearest 10. The second example is going to be a 3-digit number rounded to the nearest 10. And the last example is going to be a 3-digit number rounded to the nearest 100. These are all skills that we learned this week, so I wanted to get ahead of it for you all and teach you. So without further ado, let's go on to our first example. Round 27 to the nearest 10. What we're going to do first is identify our benchmark numbers. Our benchmark numbers are, if you count by 10, because again, we're rounding to the nearest 10, it's the numbers, the tens that the number that we are trying to round falls between. So for example, 27 falls in between 20 and 30. What I like to do is have my students count by tens to figure that out. So they would say 10, 20, 30. Oh, well, 27 doesn't go past 30, so I can stop counting. So they would understand that 20 and 30 are our benchmark numbers. If you have the benchmark numbers labeled, you are going to go find the midpoint on this number line. I'm forgetting one thing before we even begin that. I also want to explain there is no strategy to find the benchmark numbers. Students in third grade just have to be able to figure out that 27 falls in between 20 and 30. If you are noticing that your child is struggling with that task, please let me know, and that's something we can work on with their number sense. So again, the next thing we're going to do is find the midpoint number of the number line between 20 and 30. What I like to tell my students is count by 5s. Start with 20 and end at 30 by counting by 5s. So they would say 20, 25, 30. Stop right there. What number did you say? 25. Label it in the middle of your number line. Counting by 10s and counting by 5s is a skill that they should know from 2nd grade. So if they're struggling with just that skill, please let me know and we can work on that. The reason we try to find the midpoint of a number line is to help them plot the number that we're trying to round, 27. I personally don't really care if they label the entire number line and they say, okay, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I don't really care. To be very honest with you, I think it's a waste of my time because once we plot 27, let me do that right now. Once we plot the number 27, we're going to be able to visually see where we have to round 27 to the nearest 10. So here you'll see that I have plotted the number 27, which is the number that we're rounding. Once we do this, I tell my students to take their pen. I'm going to try to do this successfully on the computer. Take their marker and draw mountains from the number 27 to your benchmark numbers. One little mountain, and then one mountain. This will be able to show them that visually, which is the smaller distance? Is it 27 to 20 or is it 27 to 30? They should be able to identify that the distance between 27 to 30 is closer, which means that is the number you will round to. Okay? That is all we do. I know it takes a lot of time, but that is how we teach rounding using the number line strategy. Let's move on to a 3-digit number rounded to the nearest 10. We do essentially the same thing. But first, when I'm trying to identify the benchmarks, it's very hard for students to identify it by using a 3-digit number. So what I like to do for them is kind of erase the hundreds for right now. And I act like it's just not there. Now it's a little bit easier to find the benchmark numbers for the number 37. So we know that that is between 30 and 40. We have to plot our midpoint. Remember, count by fives. 30, 35, 40. Our midline. Now what I tell them is to bring back that hundreds place. We brought back the hundreds place, and it now says 237. So all they have to do is add the hundreds place to each of the benchmarks and the midpoint. So now we have 230, 235, 240. Now we have to plot the number 237. Again, I don't care if they label the entire number line, but it might be a little bit of a waste of their time because they'll be able to understand that 237 comes between 235 and 240. Once you've plotted the number that we need to round, that is when you're going to start drawing your mountains, starting from the number that we have to round, 237. So 237, making a mountain to 230, and making a mountain to 240. Which is the smallest mountain? It should be easy for them to identify that 237 is rounded to 240. Let's go to our last problem. Round 271 to the nearest hundred. This is where it gets a little bit difficult. They're going to learn this Thursday and Friday. First, as always, we have to make our benchmark numbers. Since it says to the nearest hundreds, we're not counting by tens anymore. We're counting by hundreds. So we have to be able to figure out what hundreds is the benchmarks 271 between. Let's count by the hundreds. 100, 200, 300. We can stop there because we know that 271 does not go past 300. So 200 and 300 are our benchmark numbers. We have to plot them on the number line. Don't forget to also plot the midpoint. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but you can do it any way that is comfortable for your child. What I do is I try to figure out, okay, if this was just 20 and this was just 30, what would be in between 20 and 30? And they should be able to identify that it would be 25. Then I say, all right, put back that 0. And then we plot it. All right, once we have the midpoint plotted, now we can roughly put 271 on the number line. So it would be about here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to make sure that it's in between the correct midpoint and benchmark. So now we do the same step as always. We take our marker and we draw a line from the number that we're rounding to the benchmarks. 271 to 200 and 271 to 300. Where is the smaller number? We can easily see, or I'm sorry, not smaller number, smallest distance. We can easily see that 271 is closer to 300. So that is where it rounds. 271 rounded to the nearest hundred would round to 300. That is all I have for rounding now. Eventually we are going to start rounding bigger numbers to the nearest hundred and possibly into the thousands, but I just wanted to start off with this quick tutorial right now, especially since it's almost 10 minutes long. If you have any questions or are seeing any struggles in your student, please let me know and I'd be more than happy to help. Also, if this is helpful for you and you'd like me to make more math tutorials like this, I'd be happy to do so. So please let me know in the comments below, like a YouTuber. All right, have a great night.